All right, folks, we are continuing to follow breaking news out of New Mexico. In the Alec Baldwin manslaughter case, just moments ago, a judge denied a defense's motion to dismiss the indictment against the actor. Now, he is charged with involuntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins in October of 2021 on the set of his movie Rust. Now, Baldwin has denied pulling the trigger. Here's a look at his explanation to police during his interrogation.
I went to lunch. She disarmed me. I sat down.
She being?
Hannah, the armaments person. When she was always handling the guns, or 99% of the time. So I would, if I had a cosmetic rifle with no rounds, I would probably hand it to one of her assistants. I'm sitting there. She disarms me. We go to lunch. We come back from lunch, and they hand me the revolver, the Colt.
And I just like so name. It's Hannah again.
They arm me, and you're assuming, as we've done every time, that it's a cold gun for the rehearsal. And I put the gag in the shot. You're the camera because I have a coat, and I have a holster, and I pull the coat over, and I kind of cup my hands like I folded my hands. And then I'm going to slowly sneak the revolver, the Colt out, and turn and shoot these other guys, or try to shoot them. I take the coat over the thing, and the camera's there. I believe, my recollection is she was there, turned a bit, like talking to him. So I think she was hit in the right armpit. But this is all I know, and that is that I take the gun out in the rehearsal. Really, he wants it very dramatic and very sudden, kind of sneak up on them. I take the gun out, and as I take, as it clears, as the barrel clears, I turn and cock the gun over here. I turn and cock the gun goes off. It's supposed to be a cold gun. Nothing. No flash charges, nothing. Now, this is a puzzle to me, and this is making me very emotional now, you know, but in my time, and I'm older now, but when I was younger and I was shooting guns and films, I've never seen a theatrical flash round where the material went through someone's armpit, came out their body, and hit somebody else in the shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if your department is prepared to go find out what comes out of his shoulder surgically. Is that a live round?
That's what we are actually looking at.
Is that a live? Because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Yeah.
It hits her in the armpit, comes out her shoulder, goes into his shoulder, and he just told me on the phone. I talked to Joel. He said they showed me the X-ray, and the shape of the thing in my shoulder is the shape of a bullet. I take the gun out slowly, I turn, I cock the pistol, bang, it goes off, she hits the ground, she goes down. He goes down, screaming. They were standing in positions they wouldn't ordinarily be in because they assumed it was an empty, cold gun. We weren't shooting, we were rehearsing, that's a vital difference. So if she's here, if the camera's here, and she's standing here talking to the guy, and I'm on a bench here, and Joel's behind her, and this is not proportionate because obviously the camera's not as big as her body, but I draw the gun slowly and aim off camera, and there's supposed to be nothing in there. So she's not protecting herself and standing off. I'm shooting in a direction, and everybody is supposed to be to that side of the camera. There's nobody in my line. Nobody. And so when I shoot the gun, so in the rehearsal, I'm assuming I have an empty gun, and the gun goes off, she's right in front of me.
All right, now Baldwin's trial is scheduled to begin on July 9th. We will be there and bring you all the developments. All right, let me bring back in my guest. Joining us still, retired NYPD Executive Corey Pegues and criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Marsha Minot. And I actually have the judge's ruling right in front of me, really pretty much hot off the presses. Now, there were a couple of motions to dismiss. One was for inconsistent theories. The other one was for destroying of evidence. That's not what this is. Here she's talking about the fact that these aren't inconsistent. Now, the claim by Baldwin, Marsha, and I'll start with you, was that you can't ostensibly, as prosecutors, argue in one case against Hannah Gutierrez that she was responsible because she allowed live rounds to get on the set, and then turn around and claim that Baldwin is responsible because he was criminally negligent with a gun. They're saying those are inconsistent theories. The judge actually says they're not inconsistent. Essentially, she says, said another way, a defendant must have been aware of the risk caused by his or her conduct and continued to act. So even though Hannah might have done something wrong, there's still a risk once the gun is handed to Alec Baldwin. He still has a responsibility not to act negligently. Those two aren't at odds with each other. Your thoughts?
the court is correct in terms of the application of the law in the jurisdiction. However, what the jurors are going to struggle with is this a party to a crime charge? If the armorer is responsible for making sure that a gun is safe, is Mr. Baldwin still liable for negligently not checking the weapon again? Industry standard is going to have to come into play, because if the industry standard is the armorer is 100% responsible for checking the weapon, and the actor should trust the armorer and is not required to go behind the armorer, then we're going to have a problem here. In this case, is going to be a not guilty. I still have a problem with the prosecutor because they still have not told us in this case, how did a live round get to the set? The state is negligent, and that's the ultimate question that needs to be answered.
Yeah, that was a question we wanted answered in Hannah Gutierrez's case, and we thought that might be fatal to that prosecution. It turned out not to be, but she was, again, directly responsible for that. I want to read a little bit more from the judge's decision. She says, in this case, the defendant has not shown that the facts presented by the state are so contradictory that they negate the theory presented by the prosecution. For example, witnesses testified that it was normal for the defendant not to check the weapon himself. Nonetheless, the state may argue that such testimony does not necessarily negate defendant's behavior in light of other allegedly unsafe circumstances on the set. So she's talking about the totality of the circumstances, Corey. But at the end of the day, for the jury, if you want to look at it very plainly, there are two levels of responsibility before you get to Alec Baldwin. You have David Halls, who was really, as the assistant director, the safety coordinator on the set, and of course, Hannah Gutierrez. How much might that play into the jury's thinking?
That's going to play into the jury's thinking, but Marsha hit it on the nose. And I'm so mad that I didn't read this again, because I had the industry standard a few months ago, and for whatever, I'm having a brain blank right now. If I could remember, I believe the industry standard also holds the person with the gun culpable. They're supposed to check and make sure, and don't quote me on that, Marsha and Mike, but I wish I had it in front of me. But the industry standard is definitely going to play a major role in this decision.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you're right. I can't quote it exactly, but it does require the actor to have some responsibility as well, and I think they're going to bring that in. There will be testimony. OSHA came in and looked at the set, and there were a number of breakdowns all the way down the line. And Marsha, not only was... Go ahead, Corey.
Not only he was an actor, remember, he's the EP too, right?
That was going to be my question to Marsha. He is not only an actor, but an EP responsible for a lot more on the set. As a matter of fact, the judge herself mentioned this fact, saying that he was responsible for hiring Hannah Gutierrez, who he should have known didn't have enough life experience, let alone experience with guns, to be an armorer on a set like this. How might that play in, Marsha?
Well, that sounds like a civil negligent hiring case. This is a criminal matter. So it still doesn't support the state's position. If the industry standard is not that Mr. Baldwin is responsible for checking that weapon after a professional armorer did, then I think he's not being charged as an EP here. He's being charged as the actor that pulled the trigger.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't play.
Corey, we also, there's a special coming up here done by our own Ted Rowlands. And one of the people that he interviewed talked about the fact that had that gun been, had this been some sort of suicide scene where he had to point the gun at himself, you can bet he would have checked. And boy, that really hit home with me.
Yeah. Listen, anytime somebody put a gun in your hand and you're acting, you should be checking. I understand the armorer is the armorer, but they make mistakes also. And that's why I believe the industry standard also holds the actor culpable to do the last check before they utilize the weapon.
Yeah, and a big question will be, did he actually pull the trigger? Again, we know there's an FBI report saying that that gun would not have fired without pulling the trigger. So much
Mike,
to really...
no gun. Mike,
yes.
Guns don't go off without somebody pulling the trigger. It's very,
no, take that back. Take that back. You better look. You better look at Taurus. Taurus had some weapons that were firing if dropped. Remember those stories, Michael?
Yeah,
yes.
That's a big issue.
Even when dropped, Marsha, even when dropped, something had to hit the trigger. They're just not dropping and going off. Even
check Taurus. It was dropping and going off.
And there were reports of a lot of guns going off around that set. So they were aware that there were issues with some of these manufactured guns. And these were manufactured for this movie. So just a lot to work through in this case. All right, guys, stand by. I do have an important programming note. I mentioned this a minute ago, this Sunday night, the premiere of the case against Alec Baldwin. Get caught up on this case ahead of the manslaughter trial beginning in 2 short weeks. This Court TV special airs this Sunday night at 9 Eastern right here on your front row seat to justice.